Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of Ed's journey here. We're just going to kick it right off and get right back into part 2. So if you haven't heard part 1, get back there, listen to part 1 on all platforms, and check out Ed's journey. So, Ed, do you want to just tell everybody just to remind them kind of what happened from the last one, and we'll push
Sure, I'll
forward.
give you a recap on some of the things I've had to navigate in healing, and then we'll step into the whole healing process that I uncovered with a little magical substance called psilocybin. So I was raised in a narcissistic family with a narcissistic father and a lot of energy vampires and some people that had some um, trauma that they were unable to navigate, and it was a lot of it was projected onto me. So, like, my first memory was being stripped down and molested in my parents' bed. All my relationships were with narcissists because that's the programming that I was subjected to. That's was my comfort zone, was that people pleasing that I had been shown that was my purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
And through all of that emotional neglect, emotional abandonment, and trauma, you develop into a bit of an empath, because you really start reading people's energy to determine what their state is, because you need to know, like, is this a safe place to be in or not? And that's how it all started. And I became a people pleaser, and how I navigated my relationships was, I'll show you what love is, and you can give me a pat on the back. And it was anybody that's been in a narcissistic relationship, and that love bombing and the gaslighting and stuff was pretty significant. It got to the point where I ended up marrying somebody that actually subjected me to mercury periodically, and my organs and stuff were starting to shut down. My pancreas was shutting down. I ended up with peripheral neuropathy in my feet. I couldn't digest food properly. It was like, we spent 2 years, the doctors and stuff, trying to navigate this and try to figure out what was happening. I saw a GI surgeon out of Victoria, BC, and the diagnosis was chemical. Went to my pharmacist, talked to my doctors and stuff, said, okay, well, what's causing this? What chemical could be this? Could be doing this? And I even brought it to my wife's attention, and I said, this was the big flag. This was the one here that kind of opened my eyes. And look, I'm whatever's putting me in the ground. I figured I'd be dead by Christmas, and this was a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago, and
Wow.
will be 3 years ago this Christmas. I figured I'd be gone, but I went and I approached her and I said, well. When I go, please, I want my family to say, look, we're going to do a talk screening on you to determine what's killing me. And her response was, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. Huge flag. Huge flag. It's like, what do you mean? Your spouse just tells you that you're going to die and you figure you're being exposed to metal. Why can't you think of something else to say other than that doesn't make sense? Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I discovered what I was dealing with, malignant narcissist, and I figured out how to. I did some research on how to deal with it, and exposing the truth was the catalyst to get her out of my life, and I did that. But previous to this situation, I started doing psilocybin. I tried everything. I was on up to 9 different medications every single day, and several of those, like 2 or 3 of those, were actually to deal with the side effects of the medication I was on. And this went on for 17 years. My body was really struggling. My mind, the fog, the whole everything was really difficult to navigate. The emotional stress and trauma of everything that I had been experiencing and not learning how to heal was literally strangling me. My everything. I couldn't function. I couldn't go out. I couldn't go to the store without having to talk myself into it to get groceries for my kids. And this was the reality I was living. And this is the reality that a lot of people live with, this anxiety and these fears, and the even to be able to communicate with people is sometimes really difficult. And I tried everything under the sun, and then I did some research, and decided that I wanted to take a path of psilocybin. And my doctor just jumped out of his chair. He's like, yes, 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 but
How,
it's
how
not.
did how did you? how did that come up? How did that come apart? Like, what drove you to start that journey?
I
Like,
did.
what was?
I was sure. Sorry, Eric. When I
No, you're good.
when um, I was at my wits end, right? I mean, the depression was so much. I could I like I said, it was hard to breathe. It was just debilitating. It was an emotional hell, that deep place where you're struggling not to think of the dark places to go. And I was just waiting to for my kids to get older, and then I was just going to roll over. That was kind of my plan, get the kids there, because I didn't want them exposed to their mother, who was a narcissist, and my family and stuff. That I needed to make sure that I did the best I could with what I had for the
Hmm.
kids. And I decided, I'm going to do some research, because nothing was working. It was a band-aid solution to a problem that was bigger than any band-aid they could produce. um,
Hmm.
and it's like that with so many people. So I decided to try in doing research on other things, and I stumbled across Oxford University's research on psilocybin for depression and addictions, everything from gambling to cigarette, nicotine addiction, to smoking, and depression. And it seems to be like working really, really well. A couple of heroic doses, and they're clean from depression for like a year. And this was the research I was looking at. And then I did more research, UBC, Harvard University, a few others, Johns Hopkins University. I started doing research there, and then brought it to the attention of my doctor and said, "This is an avenue I would like to investigate. And what do you think?"
Hmm.
And he's like, "Yeah, yeah," because it's the cutting edge. He's working with pardon me, he's working with and doing research and following the same things I was looking at. And they were actually planning to do a study here in Nanaimo, but it got red taped. So for whatever legal reasons, and so it was canceled. And I was at the top of the list of for the trial. Like my doctor says, like, you're the top of the list because you can articulate yourself. You've been in healthcare. You understand this process because you spent so long trying
Yeah.
to navigate it, that you'd be a good test subject. And I really, I wanted to believe into something that was greater than myself, and I felt that there was, and I felt I just keep going, keep going, keep going, and not stepping off this path that I tried to
Hmm.
navigate. And I did. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And I got his support. We talked about how I wanted to do this. I did my research on how to do this and make sure the environment was good. And that's what I did. I started a couple of micro doses to determine, about a gram. I made with tea and ginger and stuff like this, so I wouldn't become really nauseous. And then I like that experience was good. I was a little anxious at the time, but I was pretty happy with the research that I did. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. So I did. I think the first big one was 3 grams. Made tea with that, and it was a pretty cool experience. It was nothing like I've ever
That's
experienced
awesome.
before. I've never done psilocybin. I've never done mushrooms before or anything like that. No hallucinogens. I've never tried them, and it was really, really interesting. Um, I started doing a few months, like it was maybe every 3 months, I was doing a heroic dose, and I did 4 heroic doses all the way up to 10 grams. And
Yeah, so a heroic dose is from like 10 grams and on,
well,
or?
no, heroic doses are usually your averages between, like, people will take anywhere between a gram and let's say 3 grams. And then when you start getting up to like 5 and 6 grams, 7 grams, that's pretty heroic. And I
Hmm.
did a couple of sixes, and then I did a seven, and then I did a 10. But the reason I was doing such high doses was because my digestive system was failing. So I had to have enzymes to digest my food. So the absorption I was receiving was a fraction of, so I was probably only absorbing about 5 to 6 grams out of that 10 grams. I mean, if you were to look at it from a pathological, from the way my digestive system was working, that's about how it went. And it was a hell of a journey. It was a freaking insane experience. I journaled it and stuff, and we can talk about that, or we can talk about what I discovered. It's totally up to you how you want me to navigate this.
Well, I'd like to ask you, Ed.
Sure.
So, like throughout this process, how did you work with your doctor? Because obviously you weren't like monitored during these things. Would you just like go back to your doctor with the information that you kind of gathered during these? I don't want to call them trips because this is a lot more educational than a fucking trip.
I refer to them as treatments now because
Treatment, yeah,
Hmm.
it was not for recreational use or anything. It wasn't, you know,
yeah,
a weekend
absolutely.
trip and stuff. This was, you know, I did all my research. I told him what I wanted to do, and you know, I talked to. He had other counselors that were facilitating these treatments. So when I was
Okay,
explaining what I wanted to do, he was in support of it, complete support of it. And when I
That's
started
awesome.
my smaller doses, and I would explain to him, this is what I'm doing. And then when I went above and started doing the heroic ones, we had already set um, uh, uh, how we were going to interpret this, and how we are going to navigate this, and how I was going to explain this, because like I said, I was journaling stuff down, and I was explaining everything that I was experiencing with him, emotionally, psychologically, and what I was like, everything about my trips and what I was discovering, because I was no longer in the realm I was in when I did the
oh
heroic
yeah,
doses.
absolutely.
I went to a different place, and it was it was really mind. I wouldn't say it was a very unique experience. I mean, it would be something I would expect doing ayahuasca, like that kind of really,
Yeah,
like I'm in a different place, completely different,
Hmm.
different reality. It was really interesting to tap into that. One of the things that I I discovered both in the research and during my experience is that um, the psilocybin will subconsciously show you what you need to work on. And that's why it is such a significant impact on mental health and emotional health, because it
Hmm.
allows you to step back and become the observer when you do the heroic doses. And that's the way you can start looking and saying, okay, well, my thought process and my shadow self and my ego and my emotions, your inner child, your soul. You know, I'm going to put that straight up right now. Like from where I am, from this place of healing and a significant increase in consciousness, I'm now able to sit back and look at everything, how I think, and how the interaction between the emotions and the thought process, and how they've been banging heads and just bouncing off of each other for you know, my entire life. Because your emotions don't trust your thought, and your thought doesn't trust your emotions. You don't. You just, it just really,
Hmm.
it's really uh, it's really a difficult thing to navigate. And when you don't have the proper tools when you're a child, you don't know how to navigate your emotions. When your parents aren't healed, they're not going to give you these tools. They don't have these tools. So how are you
that's
supposed
right.
to learn? So
Hmm.
you're bouncing off people pleasing behaviors and narcissism and just trying to survive. I mean, you become, as a child, your emotional parent. And when you become an adult, you take that with you, and that's a really poor foundation for relationships, because you sabotage,
Definitely.
you trigger, there's so many different things, and you people please to the point of self destruction. And it's not a very healthy place to be. And if you have kids, that's not a very healthy environment for them. So
Hmm.
you know, I made some good choices, and I removed the mother of my children, and I became a single parent for 10 years, and then I started doing this research, and then I ended up meeting my my ex-wife, you know, and then came across the fact that I'm dealing with somebody even more difficult than broken,
Hmm.
and than the mother of my children. So when I started doing the psilocybin and I did the heroic doses, um, it was, how can I say this? I was a little nervous to do it at first, but when I got into this, and because of the environment and how I set it up, it went really, really smoothly. I learned so much about myself. Would you like to hear that? Would you like to hear what this trip was like?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
man. We want
absolutely.
to hear it
I
all, man. Give it to
I
us
Okay. I
all.
feel
went
like
to, yeah, I
I
went to,
feel like Ed, you're the type of person that given the amount of research you've done going into this type of experience, there's nothing but benefit to come from this type of experience. That's just from my limited perception of you. Like, I've learned very quickly after last week's episode that you are very much in tune with information. You're very aware of what you're looking for. So I feel like I did a heroic dose one time unintentionally, and it was not a good time.
Yeah.
But I feel like you doing it the way that you were doing it, yeah, is a completely different
Yeah.
experience.
Preparation,
Mhm.
knowing
For
what
the
you're
right
getting into.
intentions too.
Pardon me.
Absolutely.
I didn't catch
Right,
that. I'm
for the
sorry.
right intentions. For the
Yes,
right
yes,
intentions.
that was it. That was it right there. The intention was everything. It
Yeah.
took me to a place that was um, a very dry, parched, desolate environment. It was. It didn't have any real color. It was gray and brown. And when I was walking, if you want to call it walking, we're going to use that as how I was navigating through this. I'm standing in this field, and everywhere I looked, all around me, I'm in this desolate area of rock and decay and stone and decrepit wood. It was unbelievable. It was a really uninviting area. And I'm looking around and I see a massive wall, a concrete wall, a brick wall. It was very, very big. Sorry
Hmm.
about that, you guys. Um,
No, you guys, you're good, man.
and I had um, I'm looking around and I noticed over my shoulder, my right shoulder, that there is a road. And so I went and I made a beeline for the road. So I walked to the road and navigating around certain obstacles and stuff. And I got to the road, and it's just more of a parched environment, just like complete desolate. And I went to I looked toward this big wall, and I saw this massive gate, and I saw blue sky on the other side of it. And I looked behind me, and I saw demons behind me, like coming at me. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got to move. I've got to move forward.
Like running at you?
They were traveling at me, but they were a distance.
Yeah.
They were coming after me. And I'm like, okay, so how am I going to do this? And I need to get to the gate. And this was the first time I was there twice when I did my heroic doses. The first time I didn't see the demons. The first time I was just exploring, and I went to the gate, and there was this big, massive lock on it, and I could see the bars, and I could see through it, and it was beautiful. It was like the Wizard of Oz when they go to Emerald City, and you're looking as soon as they got through the forest, and you saw these fields and the trees and the beautiful clouds, and it was just magnificent. It was so
How was
inviting.
the colors? Like, cause like
Vibrant,
I've done
beautiful
mushrooms myself.
colors.
That's what I was gonna say.
Vibrant,
Vibrant.
beautiful colors. Complete opposite to where I was, trapped behind this massive wall. And
How
you know,
about
and
like traces and stuff too? Were you seeing traces and stuff when you were in
traces.
this? In the Yeah, like traces. Like so you see lights and then you would see like the traces of the lights like follow behind.
I didn't see that where I was in the desolate part. There was nothing. It was just
Okay.
parts dry, dusty, ugly,
Okay.
uninviting environment. And the only thing I could think of was getting out of there and getting on the other
Hmm.
side. Now, I realized inside this experience that I had to find the key to unlock this gate to get through. That was what I had to navigate. And I tried figuring out. I couldn't find any way around it. There was no way under it. There's no way over it. There's no way around it. I had to go through this gate. I had to find a way to unlock this gate to get out of where I was and into a beautiful environment. And I ended up doing that. My second dose is the second time I went to a heroic dose.
Well, before you
Yeah,
go any farther on that, can you explain how you found the key and like how you unlocked this gate,
I will.
if you remember?
Yeah, I will. It's internal. So it doesn't show. It shows you what you have to do. Basically, what it is, I'll explain. Is the second time I went there is when I saw the demons coming at, and we're talking like a horde of demons, like, and it was black, and they were like, it looked like trails of darkness coming off them. It was challenging to stand there in that moment and look at what was coming at me. and it wasn't, they were moving constantly, but they weren't like in sprint mode. So I
Hmm.
wasn't in fear of my existence at that time. I was like, okay, I need to navigate this. So now I'm
They
on this.
are on their way.
They're
They're on
on
their
their
way,
way.
but
They're
it's
coming.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
coming.
yeah.
And I'm
It's
looking at,
almost like what is it? The Lord of the Rings when the guy puts on
yeah,
Frodo or whatever, puts
yep,
on his ring and
yeah,
then those things come. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
It was an uncomfortable situation. When I realized the key that I need is within me. That's the key, is within me. And I have to find it within me. And that is what I found. And I had to navigate the obstacles because now there are obstacles on the road that I have to navigate because they weren't there before. It was just a path to this big, massive wall and gate.
Just to
Hmm.
kind of show you.
Just saying now, okay, you have to navigate stuff. You have to go
Yeah.
around, over, through, whatever. You need to get through this stuff. These are your lessons. This is
Hmm.
what you have to do to get to that gate. And when you get to that gate, you'll see that you have the key inside you. That was that process. And I did it. I navigated, I ran through them. I was like going from rabbit hole to rabbit hole, on fire, and not walking through hell. I was running through hell. I knew it was going to hurt and stuff. And that's what I did. And I went to that gate and I got to it after navigating all this stuff. Now, my doctor, when I was explaining this stuff to him, I'm telling him that the next time I'm going to unlock this gate and I'm going to go in. And he's telling me, make sure you leave one foot out so you can come back.
Hmm.
Because he's like, this is new to him too, right? Because this
Yeah.
is heroic. This is a big dose, and this is something new to me and something new to him. So
Were you scared? Were you
I
scared
was
when
I
you
was
were
a little
going into
nervous,
this?
kind of like
Yeah.
coming on and doing a podcast for the first time. You got some butterflies and stuff, but I had faith that this was going to go somewhere, and
Hmm.
I nailed it because where
Yeah,
I
you
am
embraced
now
it.
compared to where I was is a completely
Yeah.
different life.
Yeah.
How was having these types of conversations with your doctor? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there was a level of trust there, but
Yeah,
like
he's
to
he's
to anybody outside of this conversation, hearing you tell this story about the stuff that you're experiencing and talking to your doctor, like to me, it's like if I went to my doctor and was saying this shit, I would feel like this is an insane conversation.
it.
Hmm.
He told me the thing that really got me going is he told me that the three things in a human in someone's life. I think I've mentioned it on the last episode that the death of a parent, the birth of a child, and psilocybin were some of the
Hmm.
most profound moments in a human life.
Hmm.
And he's not kidding. It was exactly that, profound moments. It changed my life unbelievably. I mean, I sometimes have a difficult time navigating, expressing without crying because where I was and where I am now is a completely different person. Before, I was literally a version of somebody, other people. I was programmed.
Hmm.
I didn't have a clue who I was. And when you're subjected to that kind of programming for your entire life, it becomes difficult to navigate your emotions and your thoughts because they're so overwhelmed with everybody else's projection.
I was going to say they're not even your
They're
thoughts; they're
no,
your
no,
ideas of
it's
what you
no.
think other
Hmm.
people's thoughts are.
And then when you heal and you go through this and you have my spiritual awakening, because that's what it did. It gave me my connection to my spiritual self or my higher self, where I
Yeah.
connected and start realizing, well, my inner child is my soul. Those emotions I feel, every emotion I feel is my soul. And then my thought is my conscious thought, right? They're completely two different entities. And I'm realizing that
Hmm.
mental health and emotional health are two completely different things. When you start controlling and navigating your emotion, your mental thought, your mental capacity, your mental process, you can ask your emotions to step aside. And this is where we're going to get into this the really deep stuff about how to navigate this stuff and how to take control of your thought process and your emotions and then navigate this. This is going to be big. This is going to be big. I've made a couple of videos.
Right. Hmm.
I made a couple of videos, and then I recorded was it last night? Yeah, last night I went through, I was navigating some fear, and I recorded it, and it lasted about 35 minutes, navigating my entire emotion. There's no, it was done in the pitch black. Right. And I was doing this, and I was just talking to my phone saying, this is how I'm doing this. And I'm going to post that on YouTube because it's 35 minutes. I don't want to cut anything out and leave a 10-minute video on
Yeah.
TikTok. So I'll add that to my YouTube account later. But I went through the entire process on how I navigate the emotion, going down and following, from a trigger, and then navigating all the other triggers until I got to a root cause, to the root feeling and the root trauma. And then when you feel that from start to finish, it you gotta the biggest thing. I'm gonna back up here. The biggest thing, is being able to control your thought process. You have to quiet your mind. You have to stop the obsessive thoughts. You have to move in and say, okay, this thought is not welcome. A good thing to start with is, I wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of things. Like sometimes you'll be driving and this thought will come into your head, constantly. Everybody's got these things. They have these thoughts. And it just triggers this thought all the time, and you don't want to think about that. So you take the first one. You take the most prominent thought that irritates you, or that impairs your moment, the moment right now, right? And you physically do it. I physically take it and I say, you're not welcome. And I keep doing that. I keep telling myself, my consciousness, that my subconscious is not allowed to project thoughts onto me. I'm controlling this now. This is my time. You cannot do this anymore, right? We're gonna navigate this, and that's what I did. I started doing this. I learned this from a lady that was from, New York, because she moved to another place. I have it linked on one of my TikToks TikTok, obviously, one of the content videos, and I started doing what she suggested, and it worked. I do, when I have a shower, I meditate as well. So whenever I get, an intrusive thought, I take that and I toss it. I said, no, you're not welcome. No, you're not welcome. No, you're not welcome. Get out of here. You're not welcome. And then it took about a week the first time to take control. And I never came back again. It never came back. I'm like, okay, it works. This is how we're going to do this. And then every single time I had a thought, a negative thought, self-talk that was negative, I removed it. I said, nope, you're not welcome here. And I took control. I would not allow that subconscious thoughts to be coming into my conscious environment. You have to take control, because when you start navigating your emotions, the last thing you want is all these random thoughts coming in your head, because you cannot navigate these triggers to a root trauma and then feel through that. That could take 10 minutes or 10 days to navigate this, because
Hmm.
shame, betrayal, abandonment issues, fears, and stuff like these are hardcore emotions that are traumatizing, and that can impair everything in your life. And to navigate these things and feel these things from start to finish is really, really difficult. And you need to be able to quiet your mind in order to navigate this stuff. And when you do that, you can sit and meditate and think for like 30 minutes without thinking. You sit there and meditate for 30 minutes with your feet in the grass and just breathe. Listen to the trees, stuff like this, and no thoughts. That's when you're ready to start some serious healing.
And I was going to say that in and of itself, like quieting all that background noise to be able to focus on just one thing going on in your head, that's a fucking skill in and of itself that you have to learn
Definitely.
before
That
you
was
can
it
even
was
start
hard. Like I
that.
said, the first time it took a week
Yeah.
before I was successful. And then I knew I was on to something. I could do this, and I did it. And I can sit and meditate for I don't even know how long I can meditate now. I can go on for an hour and just sit there and focus on one thing for
Mhm.
hours. I'll sit there and talk about one thing for like 3 or 4 hours, and I'm looking at my phone, going, "Oh, I just sit there and channeled or talked, about one item, without any interruption or any distractions for hours." And that's where you want to get to. You want to get to the point where you quiet your mind, because when you do that, you take control of your mental thoughts, your process. And when you do that, that's it. Because then you've cleared a nice environment to work for, or to work within. And then you get a trigger. And when you get that first trigger, and you start navigating it, something that's um, something that triggers you, like poor anything really, something that's prominent, that's not deep. Like, don't start with fear right away, because that's a pretty significant feeling to sit there and say, yeah, universe, give it to me, let me have this, let me feel this. You want to absorb everything you can, and then when you get that first trigger, that fear trigger, we'll just use fear for an example. I had fear, and from an experience, and it was a trigger fear, and I'm or a trigger anger. There's a good one. Anger's really good. Bad drivers or something, anything, right? That triggers you, and you feel that, and you hold on to that feeling, because we're so used to pushing those emotions away. We don't want to embrace it. We don't go at it. We run from it, because nobody likes the pain. It's like,
Well,
trying to put your hand
especially in
on a
men.
friggin' hot element and keep it there.
Uh,
It's really hard.
well, well, especially in men too, right? That's what we're known to, is just taking that feelings and
Yeah,
just putting it deep
it
down.
is freaking hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to feel. How are we supposed to feel? We're supposed to
No.
shove it down and just fucking move forward. We're supposed to
Bury
navigate
it down
this in
right to your
silence,
feet. Yep.
right? And
Yep.
then you get the other side of it, where the same with women is, they're supposed to be, but we're supposed to cater to that, and there's no accountability, responsibility for the emotions. I don't mean to be sexist at all, but this is programming we're talking about,
Yep.
and this is the reality of what we're looking at socially. I've spent years looking at this stuff, trying to figure out how to understand this and how to navigate this, and I'm tapping into this higher consciousness after you heal all your trauma. Everything seems to be coming clearer, and things start unfolding, and you start seeing these patterns of behavior, you start seeing this stuff unfold in the programming, and it changes the entire playing field. It changes everything. And from here, let's go back to the initial. We'll go okay, let's take a deep breath. I get really excited about this stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
man. No, you're good, brother.
let's look at anger. Anger is a good one, because everybody has anger. So you get a trigger from somebody, maybe an acquaintance or a friend or something, and you get really mad, right? And everybody has this,
Mhm.
they get mad. So that's a trigger. And we all know, but we don't recognize it, and we don't navigate it properly. We blame other people for our triggers.
Yep.
You piss me off,
That's why
that's
I
it.
don't like that word,
You
man.
know,
That's why I
it's
don't like that word.
it's not a it's triggers are your wounds, your emotions,
Yes.
your responsibility. You're accountable. You need to navigate this in a way for you. Projecting that on somebody else is just a cycle of ego and of pain and fear and running, and it's not going to work. You have to address it. You have to move it. So what you do with that anger, is you shut out everything. You go into that mode where you've quieted your mind, and you're not going to have any distractions, and you feel that start to finish. So you go into that trigger, and it's like, okay, and you navigate that, and then another trigger will come up. You're not going to go from one trigger all the way to a root trauma. You're going to be navigating these triggers, because as you're sitting there feeling these feelings, all of a sudden up pops a memory, and then now you're more involved in that emotion, and then you think about that memory, and then you discard the memory, and you maintain that even more profound pain or anger, and then you move down until you get to the next trigger, and the next trigger, and the next trigger, until you can navigate to the root trauma. When you get to the root trauma, then you feel it in its entirety. And if you're lucky, it's only going to last a few minutes. And if it's significant, abandonment issues and stuff took me months to work through. Took me months, because it's really a really hard one. And most people have these, because you're not going to have abandonment issues unless if your family is healed, if they're conscious, right? They'll know how to navigate and show you how to navigate your emotions. When your parents are broken, and it's not a judgment call on them. They're broken. So many people are. Most people are. How many people in the world are conscious? Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
So there are things to navigate, and what happens is you start getting deep into it, And then all of a sudden you start feeling that the pain or anger is dissipating. It's starting to dissipate, and you stay with it, 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 and then it's gone. And that trigger will never pop up again. When you heal that root trauma, never will pop up again. Betrayal, shame, abandonment issues, rage, anger, it doesn't come. Every single emotion that I've experienced, every single wound and trauma that I've navigated, I am not triggered. I have not been triggered unless I come across something that I haven't healed through. And I have been doing this now for virtually every day for, oh my goodness, probably a year and a half now. I have been going in every single rabbit hole that pops up, and it's like one after the other, after the other, after the other, and that's the dedication I want to put in toward my healing, because where I was not even in existence. I was
So
waiting.
do you go searching for these triggers, or you kind of just
No,
wait till
I
they
wait.
come
I
up?
wait. I wait. It's when you first start, triggers are popping up every hour.
Yeah.
You know, whatever triggers your emotion, right? Remember that trigger, that feeling. Remember it, and then go, okay, where's this from? And then start navigating it, start following it.
Mhm.
But you got to make sure. Like again, I cannot emphasize. Grounding is really important. Put your feet in the grass. Water, because
Mhm.
water is your emotional lubricant, believe it or not. That's what I found. The more hydrated I am, the easier it is to navigate my emotions. It isn't as painful. So just, take that.
Just to touch on the grounding there, sort of cut you up, but just to touch on the grounding, what you're
Yep.
talking about is for people that don't know, um, so the everything has energy, Mother Earth, all of this,
Yep.
right? It all has energy. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take off your socks, take with your shoes first, obviously, then your socks, and you stand for at least minimum 5 minutes,
Yes.
from what I
Uh,
know,
yeah. I would spend an
right?
hour and a half, 2 hours wearing my moccasins. Leather is, you can use leather. I got, um, my daughter picked up some leather moccasins for me, and I could
Hmm.
walk around because it conducts its electricity.
Yeah,
Barefoot if the grass is dry and stuff like this, and then it's
yeah.
great. Put your feet in water. Lean up against a tree. I did a lot
Hmm.
of mountain climbing when I was younger, and I found that was really grounding because I was literally attached emotionally to the rocks because I don't want to fall. So I was like, you're hanging
Yeah.
on for dear life. Um,
Mhm.
and anything you can connect with the ground. I mean, I believe, I'm going to say this because I've got I mean, all schools and stuff should be grounding. All hospitals should be grounding. They should be grounding. So you're sitting at your desk, and you should be grounded to the earth because the energy you get from grounding is absolutely amazing. They should have grounding sheets for all geriatrics and in the hospitals because that energy is needed. I mean,
Especially there.
yes, especially for the geriatrics. So it's
Yeah.
the last time they put their feet in the grass,
Yeah.
right? When you talk to them
You
about their experiences as a child running around barefoot in the grass, they had a lovely time. But when you take that
Yeah.
all away with all the rubber and synthetics and stuff like this that we have now, we don't. We've completely isolated ourselves from the energy of the earth, and look where we are. I mean, that's just part of the problem. That's just one little drop in a big bucket of the issues that we have to navigate. But that's
You know,
grounding is huge.
I used to do that all the time when I was down, like I was having a bad day, where I used to live. There was like this like hidden beach, and I used to walk the little trail down. It was by Confed. Anybody knows Burnaby Confed? At the bottom, there's a hidden little trail, and it takes you to the beach where the old McDonald's, the floating McDonald's, used to be on on the river there. And I used to go down there and I just stick my feet right in the sand, man, and I would just sit there, play some nice music that, like music that makes me calm,
Yep.
and I would just live. You know what I mean? I would just live, and I shit you not, after when I go put my socks and shoes back on, I felt like a different person. You
Hmm.
feel this energy from Mother Earth coming up, and it's going through your body. Like, I'm just getting goosebumps right now because it's almost like a shooting happy energy that's
It's
like
like
takes the toxins
a
out of you.
childhood trigger, that emotional
Yeah,
playing in the grass, hanging with the trees and your friends and stuff, and running around. I mean, it's really, when you
definitely.
think about that, it makes you feel, it triggers that emotion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you were talking about it, mine was just literally just being on the beach, feeling the fucking sand between your
There you
toes.
go.
Simple as
Fuck yeah,
that, man.
yeah. I wanted to
Yeah.
say before I forget, because when you were mentioning things, when you were talking just a moment ago, Eric, something popped into my head, and one of the key things I used, a book, "The Power of Now," with from Eckhart Tolle. I think it
Yeah.
was one of
Hmm.
the the tools I needed to quiet my mind, because I was so messed up about the past and so worried about the future. I couldn't stay in the moment. And that was one of the tools I used to be able to stay in the moment. Because when you stay in the moment, then you allow yourself to recognize thoughts, patterns, and stuff that come in, these thoughts, and that's when you start going, no, no, no. So in um, with the physical, grabbing that thought. Like in the Harry Potter movie, when friggin' Dumbledore took that
Hmm.
memory and put it in a thing. It's like that's what I'm doing. I'm physically thinking of taking that thought out and tossing it aside, and then having the focus on trying to stay in this moment, this very moment, because nothing else matters but this very moment. And that's the philosophy that I used as a tool to access this process. And from there, it's like grounding and doing everything healthy, changing my diet. I started doing that AG1 75 minerals and vitamins and stuff every day,
Hmm.
and dropped virtually all the processing foods. No more sodas and stuff like this. Occasionally, I'll have something to drink with my kids and stuff like that, like usually uncaffeinated stuff, like something that
Hmm.
doesn't have, obviously it doesn't have caffeine, because it kept me up at night, and I had trouble sleeping at night to begin with at that time.
And then there's me drinking a coffee right now.
That's okay. I drink a big cup of coffee every morning anyway, so it's all good. I drink
Hmm.
coffee every day, and it's
You
a fun
know,
thing.
like one thing about recovery, Ed, is like we're really big at staying present. And one of the things my sponsor told me very early on, and I say it to my guys all the time, like, don't live with one foot in yesterday, one foot in tomorrow, because then you're shitting all over today.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great.
Hmm.
I like that. I'm
I
going to use
like
that. Can
it.
I use
I
that?
like it.
Thanks,
Hmm.
Anthony. That's
Absolutely,
perfect. I
man.
like that.
Yeah,
I like that because it's
yeah,
true, and that's exactly
yeah.
what happens. Because when you can't navigate today when you there's shit all over the place, and it's true. It's
And
true.
it's very hard if you become aware of the fact, like you did, of like your thoughts pulling you in all directions. 99% of those thoughts, that noise that you're talking about quieting, is shit about yesterday, shit about tomorrow. And a prime example right
Beers,
now is
all that stuff.
literally
Yeah.
what's sitting fucking right behind me, Christmas tree.
Yep.
You know, that's the big one right now. Like, got to get presents for the kids,
Yes.
like all this shit, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one for tomorrow, right? And then, yeah. So, like, at the beginning, it's like your fucking brain's going to be everywhere. Like, I feel like our tools are not very similar, but the outcome is very much the same. You know,
Hmm.
like I believe in the spiritual connection, and you were talking about it earlier. And one thing that I always say is like when I'm not practicing that spiritual connection, my inner child suffers. And the way I say
Yes.
it is when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, Anthony is just a sad, scared little
Yeah.
boy who doesn't have the will to live.
Yeah.
Because that's who I am at my core. That's my inner
Yeah.
child. And those are those
Exactly.
wounds that I felt, right? So yeah, like staying present when you first start hearing all that noise, it's so hard to fucking decide where to go. So one of the tools that I use in recovery is we write shit down, and we essentially same thing. Like, so for example, like if I have a resentment, say I had a resentment towards Eric for not calling me on Saturday, or we had plans to go live or something on TikTok. Okay. So then I write down Eric's name. I write down what he did. So he didn't call me and plan to go live on TikTok. And then I write down what parts of my life that affected, like my self esteem, my personal relations with him. It didn't really affect my financial security. But then I remove Eric from the situation and I look at my part. Why? And it's essentially my trigger, right? Like, what was it that and it's like he made plans. Well, like I set an expectation, an unrealistic expectation on someone when I have no business setting an expectation on somebody else because I have no control over anybody else. Right. And it's like essentially the same thing where you work your way down. we work our way backwards, right? And then we just bring it all back to us and work our way through it. But it's a
Yeah.
very similar thing, which is really cool. And I wanted to ask you, so like this is stuff that you essentially taught
Yes.
yourself throughout your experiences with
That's
your
crazy,
treatments?
man.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
gonna say ask that too.
I devoted my time for years, every day. This is I knew there was something big. I knew there was something different. I was not going to be a statistic. There's no way. I didn't want to do that. I kept searching and
Yeah.
searching and searching until I discovered something. I just knew it right in my core that there's got to be a way through this. There's got to be a way to navigate this stuff, and I figured it out. And the psilocybin, God, universe, Gaia, everything, source energy, whatever you want to use to describe, because I believe everything is energy and we're all made of energy, and all the experiences, memories, everything is energy, right? Triggers are energy, everything is energy. So when you
Hmm.
realize this, you can start navigating these things a little easier. And then once you realize that you can navigate them, then you start realizing you can manipulate them too. So you got this
Yeah.
memory, this trauma that's got like five emotions attached to it that's just taken up so much space. And when you get down to that root trauma, then you start realizing, oh, okay, well, there's the fear and there's the shame. And then you start navigating. And then once you remove all the emotions, gone. When you've
Nothing else
healed
to
it,
hold
the
on to
trauma
anymore.
is gone. There are no more triggers. They're gone.
Yep.
They don't exist. You cannot be triggered because the trauma is gone. You healed it from
I'm
start to
just blown
finish.
away, man. I'm blown away that like you figured this out in your own journey. You know what I mean? Like there is
Yeah.
no mentorship, there's no it was just all you,
I
man,
read
and
a
I give
handful of books and
so
I
much
never
props.
completed a single one. Like Eckhart's The Power of Now.
Yeah.
I never read the entire thing. I listened to it actually several times in different sections, almost meditating while I'm driving on Spotify. And that's how if I have time to read a book, I will. Like I read a bit of Conversations with God, and I read Becoming Supernatural, and a few other about Vanessa Ooms. Sorry, Vanessa Ohms is People Pleasing. I got halfway through that book as well, and it really established a a the opportunity to look at this. But it was the psilocybin that got me to step
Hmm.
back and become the observer of my feelings and my thoughts and my ego and everything else. And then I just took control. I
Hmm.
looked at this and said, okay, well, hey, Edward, Edward, little guy here inside my soul, he needs work. So we need to work
Yeah.
together. And you start teaching your collective, if you want to use that
Yeah.
word, um, how to work together. And when you get through all that trauma and all the healing, you see that everything fits perfectly. It all makes sense. The whole healing
See,
journey. It's absolutely
well,
amazing.
when you talk about how your ego and stuff, so a big part of like DMT, right? Ayahuasca. What it is you do this ceremony, ayahuasca ceremony, usually in Peru. That's where they have it with the
Yes.
shaman. You do it
One
all
day, I hope.
yeah. Well, I told you I
Oh,
got a
yeah.
friend, so
Yeah.
we'll talk offline about
Sure
that,
about
but I
that.
told you
Sure.
we'll work on that.
Thanks, Eric.
But no problem. What it does is it takes your ego and just smashes it. You know what I mean? And it just breaks down your ego and pretty much you rebuild yourself in a sense, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what it does. And I think the same thing is with the psilocybin.
Oh,
And
yes.
people that don't know, psilocybin is what they call on the streets magic mushrooms,
Yeah.
right? It's a hallucinogen, right?
Yeah.
Just so people, if you don't know,
Yeah.
just wanted to educate you.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
research. Sorry.
that's yeah. No, I'm just saying it's like exactly it's and it just pretty much takes your ego and smashes it into a million pieces. And I think it's even more or less like I've done DMT multiple times, right? And I think that it's more or less like the control, right? You kind of just release that and give control to this almost I wouldn't say a substance, but it's like I would even say it's like some kind of universal doctor in a sense
Yes.
from you know what I
Your
mean?
higher self. you're
Yeah.
releasing to your higher self, to
Yeah.
your conscious, because we don't know how to navigate that. And when you make that connection, and it
Hmm.
allows you to become the observer. And that was the whole
Hmm.
key right there. So when you can sit back and go, oh, the emotion, the thoughts, the ego, and then you see what ego does, you recognize that it is the catalyst to all your fucking problems.
Yeah.
It is because you're fear
Well,
based. It's a
yeah.
lack mentality, and it just projects. No, we don't want to fear this. We're going to hide. We're going to project that on somebody else. We're going to do this. We're going to do that.
Hmm.
It is protecting yourself because you're not able to navigate these emotions and these thoughts together because you're not in alignment. You're bouncing all over the walls.
Well,
And
as human beings, we want certainty, right? And that's what we fear is not knowing the unknown, right? Like
yeah,
not knowing what's coming ahead. That's
you're
why, like, you like, for instance, I'm a big football, so I'm going to use football as an example. People bet, they try to figure out everything. Okay, this player, that, this, like, and they try to navigate through, just the little things to see what the outcome's going to be, because it's not just about the money, but it's also, it's uncertainty. You want to know that your team's going to win. You want to know whatever it is. And as human beings, we need to know.
yep.
We need to know what's coming. Right? It's a certainty. And when you don't have that, that's when fear kicks in as well, right?
Yes,
And that's another.
the uncertainty. That's it right there.
Yeah.
That's it's huge when people
Yeah.
because when we're children and we're programmed this way, we're full of uncertainty. We don't know. We have
Hmm.
fears. This, that. We get. I mean, the environments are not ideal for growth, for
Hmm.
personal growth, and for development. It's not, and it's just getting worse. I mean, look at this.
Yeah,
Look at this
definitely.
shitstorm we're in, emotionally
Yeah.
and collectively, socially. It's not a pretty sight. We need a breakthrough, and I think we're stepping into that now. I mean, spiritual awakening and people navigating their healing journey is absolutely it's exploding. It's like somebody threw a
Hmm.
Yeah.
big rock into the friggin' into a lake, and it's just a ripple effect is happening. And now all sorts of people
Yeah.
are starting to throw their rocks in there, and the ripple effect is just taken off. And I hope it keeps going because there's got to be something. I mean, because where we're
Hmm.
going is not a very good place, I don't think.
And you know what's fucking crazy, man? So, like, you know how we do this, right? Like how we had an interview,
Yeah.
right? Before we did the podcast. So we had an interview with a guy last week. And I said that exact same fucking thing to Eric after we got off the phone. I'm like, man, we're literally hearing the same thing from every guest that we've had on. Like spirituality, higher connection, power greater than yourself. And it's
Yeah.
just like, man, like there's so many fucking people, and this is what gets me even in recovery, because it's essentially the same thing, right? Like just a different set of tools with the same fucking
Yep.
outcome, right?
Hmm.
It's a connection greater to a power greater than
Yes.
yourself, right? So it's like it's stuff like this, and having these types of conversations with different people from all over the world at this point, and getting the same fucking answer from every single person. It's like, how can you sit there and tell me that this shit can't be fucking real? There's no way. How
I
does someone like you, I've never fucking met in my
100%.
life, have an experience on the other side of just this country with something completely out of the wheelhouse that like I've used recreationally, have a spiritual experience like that, spiritual awakening? We use those exact terms in recovery, and come to the same conclusion that I came to without the use of any type of medication and just working with another human being who had essentially had one before me. Like, man, like fucking tell me it's not real. I'll fucking
Hmm.
fight
no,
you
no
right now. Like,
Proof is in
I
the pudding, brother.
like 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah,
Like I'm not religious, right? I
yeah,
kind of believe in it. I kind of believe in karma and stuff like this. Like back then, because I
yeah,
always knew. Like I knew when after I died, because I died when I was 10. If anybody wants to
yeah.
hear about the story, they can go back and watch the previous episode. But I knew that there was some kind of purpose here. I knew. I don't have a. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but I knew that there was something. And all I
Hmm.
knew is I had to stay in the light. I had to stay. I didn't want to project and become what was projected onto me. I chose the light. I chose to be kind. I chose to move and navigate with unconditional love. And you become the target of every narcissist. People pleasing
Mhm.
is was the only thing you know. And then stepping back and then doing this healing journey and then realizing this is all programming. I mean, it's absolutely staggering. It's breathtaking. Sometimes I sit and I'm sitting in my Jeep, or I'm on the beach or something, and I'm realizing that all of this stuff have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, and not just
Mhm.
the experience from my parents being passed down from their parents, from that aspect of it. They're now talking about
Yeah.
epigenetics. I think we talked about this before as well, where they took mice, pregnant mice, they subjected them in a container with the smell of peach, I think it was, and then gave them a shock. And they did that, and then they reacted emotionally to this. Well, the offspring of these mice, they just gave them the peach and they reacted as if they were being shocked. And then the next
Jesus.
generation, the
Yeah.
same thing. They reacted as if they were being shocked when they came across that scent of peach. So we're just not going through our experiences that have been passed down from generation to generation, but it's now in our blueprint. We're realizing this is blueprinted stuff. This is past generational, or even, if you want to believe in this, past life experiences that we're holding on to, and it's passed down into our DNA. And now this is the stuff I'm healing. Like, why was I afraid of the dark? Why was I afraid to be alone in the forest? Why was I afraid of heights? Why was I afraid of falling? Doesn't make any sense. But then you may have traumas that are passed down from generations that I'm now navigating. So I sat there yesterday, this fear that I had that I never experienced. I had no trauma, but I had this fear. So I started navigating and realizing that I'm actually healing through something from past generational, because I've gone through everything. I wasn't triggered. I just all of a sudden started having this feeling. And I tried navigating. I could not find trigger. I went from start to finish, couldn't figure it out, and then it hit me. This is generational. This is being passed down through DNA. So when they say you're a generational curse breaker, this is what they're talking about. Is you're
Hmm.
breaking this stuff that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. How do you wrap your brain around
Hmm.
this? You can't do it if you're not conscious. It's just too emotional. It's just like, how do you figure this stuff out? And when you gain that level, when you heal all your trauma, you access your consciousness, and then you work together with your emotions, your mind. Everything has its place. And when you're in that Zen state of balance, everything is much easier to navigate. I mean, trauma is going to happen. You're going to have experiences in your life, but you can navigate them a lot easier and with grace, in
You now
control.
have the tools to
You
Yeah.
get
know, you
across.
have the
Yeah.
Yeah.
tools. When you can heal through all of your childhood trauma, and it doesn't matter what happens after that. Well, it does matter. That's not the point. The point is this is life. We're going to have loss. We're going to have grief. We're going to have trauma. Things are going to happen. We have to navigate. And when you have these tools and you have access to these tools, you know how to use them, it makes the journey
Hmm.
like so much easier. It really, really does, because
But yeah, it does.
as hard
Well,
as it is to navigate these traumas and stuff, because who the hell wants to do this? Who we've been
yeah.
spending our entire life pushing them away, and you turn around and you embrace it. You say, "Yeah, bring it on, universe. Come on, I'll take it on. Um, you can't stop me. No, you take it on. You pull it all in, everything, all of it into you, and you feel it, and it's hard and it's crushing, but you'll never get triggered again. You'll never get triggered again. It is
It's
healed.
about it's about having don't expect anything and accept everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You know. And it's all
and
let's face it, it at the end of the day, it's just all code. It's zeros and ones. It's a
it's
matter of how
yeah,
you're gonna
just
crack that code.
it's
Yeah.
energy, and it's just a matter of being able
Yeah.
to navigate it, and then developing
Yeah.
tools to make it,
Yeah.
well, to heal. It's
Yeah.
it's simple. It's because this is all that it's about now. I mean, this stage of the event. I mean, we we can take a look at the three phases. You know, when we were a childhood, we need we need love, we need support, we need safety, we need encouragement, we need nurturing and stuff. And when we lack these things, sometimes we lack all of those things, and that's a pretty fucking fucked up life, right? When you have
Mhm.
nothing and you have to do it all yourself because people don't have the tools to teach you. And then you get into your teenage years when you are in your justice phase, when you now start seeking justice for the things that happened and the things that didn't happen. in your childhood. And if you don't learn how to navigate that when you're in your teens, you take it to your adulthood when you're trying to establish a sense of peace, which is your final phase, is a sense of peace. We want peace. We want to live in peace. We want to relax. We want to be able to fulfill our life and just relax and enjoy it and experience what we want to experience, regardless of what it is. But if you don't have the tools to navigate that trauma when you're in your child, or the things that you were not given, you're going to maintain that justice phase when you're an adult, and you're going to be, like when I was 55 years old and hating the world and wanting this, and hating these people for the things they did, and I hated my family, I hated this, I hated that, and I want justice. But when you heal, you forgive yourself. You forgive, and forgiving yourself is really hard because we have guilt and stuff, and navigating guilt is not the easiest thing in the world to do.
And you're the biggest critic in your own life.
Yes,
too.
you beat yourself up so much emotionally and psychologically, and that's the biggest thing about quieting your mind, is stopping that stuff from happening. And when you do, oh my God, guys, it changes everything. It is absolutely amazing.
When you forgive yourself, that's like the most freeing thing you can do. Even like you said, even if it had nothing to do with you, like Joe used to say it all the time, man. Like the trauma may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal from
Yes,
that, right?
exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
like
True.
that doesn't mean going and forgiving the other person. Like you can still hold that person accountable, but like if you're going to carry it in such a negative and fucking heavy way, it's going to weigh on you until you forgive yourself for like going through that. Like triggers, like I'm going to bounce between triggers and forgiving yourself, because like I wholeheartedly agree with you. Like the way I explain triggers to people is like, you have an issue with my morals and values, so now you feel disrespected by my morals and values, and you want me to change what I believe in to make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like that word. Triggers, like it's your triggers are your responsibility. They're not mine. Mine are mine. Like I'm not going to get mad at you because you did mushrooms and I'm sober. Like that's fucking, in my opinion, that's stupid, right? But some people have a hard time with being triggered by shit.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the stuff that I worked through was exactly that. Like the things that quote unquote triggered me, the things that would get me upset, were a result of things that I had nothing to do with, that were done to me per se. But until I learned how to forgive myself for those situations in some form or another, I was never going to be free of those situations. Those situations and scenarios and people had a fucking stranglehold on me until I accepted it for what it was, forgave myself for being a part of it, and let it go. Right? Like that's the most freeing thing, man, is like being able to forgive yourself, man. Fuck.
Do you want to go? You want to go deep into triggers?
Let's do it.
We can do
Okay, because
Let's
I
do it.
want to blow your mind here. Okay, you ready? Every emotion you feel is a trigger. Everything, all your emotions, your inner child is a trigger. They're good triggers or they're bad triggers. Negative. We'll say low frequency triggers and high frequency triggers. We'll say you're having a conversation and somebody cracks a joke. It triggers you. Joy, laughter, so on and so forth. These are your emotions. No one gave you this and said, here, take this laughter or take this love. Every emotion you feel is a trigger, including love. So when you're falling in love with somebody, they're triggering emotion within you. Okay? Now, when they're not healed, all right, you're going to lose that honeymoon phase because they're not healed. So the projections and what is triggered within you that you feel for this person is actually a mirror and reflection of yourself. That person is triggering the love that you have. So when you come across a massive love that just engulfs you, that is you. When you heal, you can call on that anytime you want. When you heal, you have unconditional love of self. You don't need anybody. You have that. You tap into that. That is the most monumental moment the other day when I wept thinking, okay, I can tap into this and have unconditional love of self, just as if I met somebody, a woman of my dreams. right? And that's the trigger. It's just a trigger. So when you heal, you can call on that and create that whenever you want. Anytime you think of something and a memory that bothers you, you can get triggered into something negative, right? Or a low
Hmm.
frequency. It's just like you can get triggered into a high frequency, such as love. Now, when you go in and you do this work and you become conscious, you start recognizing these patterns. And this is the stuff that I'm like tapping into now, where love is also a trigger, because emotions are not something that people give you. Because how can we say, okay, negative triggers or low frequency triggers you've given me, and I've had to be responsible and accountable for those because those are wounds that I haven't navigated yet, I haven't healed. Well, why is it just low frequency energy triggers? It's we're triggered about everything in our life. All our feelings and emotions are triggered by our soul, in our inner child. So that means we control how we love, how deep we love, when we love. We don't need other people to project love onto us, right? That's a codependency,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right?
So
When we
this
are
is the
using
mirror
other
thing that
people
we're
to
kind
make
of
ourselves
talking
feel
about.
better about ourselves. Pardon me?
So this is the mirror thing. Like me and you had a really good conversation earlier today, actually on the way to work when I was
Yeah,
going there.
I made a
We were talking
TikTok. I
about
sent it to you
mirrors.
about this exact
Yeah, I
thing.
saw that. Yeah. Yeah. And it's that's what you're doing. You're projecting, right? And me and Anthony actually were talking about this too, because when we had a guest, well, not a guest, but a interview, and it's about that. Your partner's a mirror of what you're projecting,
Yep. Exactly. And
and
that's
it's
that's the
like,
whole thing.
yeah.
That's the whole thing. Emotions are you, regardless of what the emotion is. It's a trigger in you. So when you have unconditional love of self, and you find somebody that matches that frequency, that's a power couple. That's a power couple.
Hmm.
They will change the face of the earth. They will demonstrate what real unconditional love is. It's just a matter of getting people healed to be able to do that. And when you do that,
Hmm.
there's no stopping you. There's no stopping you, because I'm never going to stop. I'm going to keep projecting this unconditional love, this healing process, this journey. I'm just going and going and going. I'm never going to stop, because this is who I am now. I love this, and this is not something you gatekeep. This is something you share. So I'm working on a book, and
Yeah.
I'm working on different content. I'm trying to get out on different platforms, but this is absolutely groundbreaking from my perspective, because I've never seen or read anything about this before, and I'm navigating this. It's completely new, and here we go. Let's just go.
Buddy, you
Let's
blew
go with
my
it.
mind. You're the
Let's
first.
go.
This is
Yeah.
where I'm learning, man. Like, I mean, me and you have great conversations off the phone. I wish we could record them for the podcast. I mean, like I talk
Yeah,
to you all the time, and you know what I mean. And it's profound, man. Some of the shit, man. It's just amazing. It's mind blowing, bro. I mean, you have like opened up some doors for me here, and inspired me too, like we talked about some other stuff. But I mean, just like on putting in work, like the triggers, trying to find the triggers, going, and you're gonna not just hit one, you're gonna hit a bunch, and there's like branches you gotta navigate, man.
yeah.
And like I had no idea about this stuff, so I just want to say thank you, that you've taught me something today. And I mean, I I I I'm speechless, man. Just thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
glad that I can participate in this journey. I mean, it's part of my healing as well, being able to share this, because I couldn't speak before. I couldn't. Like, how do you explain this stuff, right? That you navigate.
Mhm.
Well, you do a fucking damn good job, my
Fuck
friend, at
yeah.
Thanks, Anthony, man.
articulating.
That means a
Oh,
lot, man. I
fuck,
really
dude.
appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Um,
So I wanted to ask you one more
yeah.
question. Are you still working with your doctor? Are you still
Every
doing the
month
psilocybin
every
thing?
month I have a meeting with my doctor every month, and we talk about
Yeah.
this. And
And
he's like looking at me like, "How you doing there? How you doing there, Edward?" And I was like, "Yeah, good," because it's the safest place I have. My doctor and
Mhm.
my relationship. I've been seeing him for like a decade, and it's the safest place with this guy. This guy allows me to be exactly who I am and to navigate and express myself. And he records them now too, because they're like absolutely freaking phenomenal. He's like
Mhm.
his mouth drops every time we go in and have a conversation. He actually looks forward to my visits, because he's just like, you blow me away. You shatter things. I mean, you're talking about things that you're thinking about that are cutting edge psychiatric fucking
I was
philosophy.
gonna say, how
Yeah.
fucking
Mhm.
excited is your
He's just
doctor
like,
to
he's
say
like, oh
come
yeah,
come
Edward's
straight
coming.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's
the
like excited. He says, I was listening to an iPod, exactly what we were talking about last time you were here, and it's cutting edge stuff. And it's like he's blown away. He says, you shattering all the expectations I've ever had on this, and it's like I've got to keep going. I had an opportunity, like Vancouver Island University is leading psilocybin treatments, and it's really exciting. It's really being recognized, and they were looking for people to help facilitate that, but I was not ready. I was just understanding this stuff, and this was I think about a year ago. That was about a year ago, and I went up to the university. I'm like, I'm really thinking about applying for this position, but I don't have a master's and a PhD, but I have a hell of a lot of really good experience. And now it's like I'd love to work with these people. I'd like to work with anybody that is on this healing journey that wants to get in depth with this stuff and really take it to the farthest reaches of our our human existence, our experiences. Because I think
Mhm.
it's the answer. I really do, because what it did
I
for
feel
me,
like you're one hell of an advocate
what
for
it
this.
did for me,
Mhm.
thank you, what it did for me was literally change my life, change the life of my children. And they say that when you do the generational healing and stuff, First Nations, they have this philosophy that you heal the past 7 generations and you heal the future 7 generations. So when you're actually healing this stuff, you're healing and making a better environment for your children and your children's children, and they will not have to navigate these traumas and these feelings and these
Absolutely.
phobias and these fears
Mhm.
that you've been subjected to because you healed through it all. And it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's just blowing me away. Every day is a new day, and I wake up, I'm like excited. Let me see if I can learn something new today and apply it to this healing. And it doesn't stop. It just goes, and I just love it. I totally endorse. I recommend anybody that is thinking about doing this, talk to your doctor, talk to somebody, and if you can afford to get somebody to facilitate you on the psilocybin journey, then please do. But whatever it takes, it doesn't have to be psilocybin. If you can just go in and just change your diet and change your focus, start reading your books, and you can have all the knowledge you want, but you need to be able to apply it. And that means not following
Mhm.
somebody else's healing journey. You have to discover your own healing journey. It's all about
Yes.
self. You
Yeah.
cannot take a blueprint and put it in you because it's not going to fit, right? You
Yeah.
have to go in and discover it for yourself. And that's the key. That was the key right there. The key was
At,
figuring it out and
at
discovering yourself. Yes.
at that point in time, you're just doing it for recreational at that point. Then if you're not really actually being true to yourself and
Yeah.
doing your own journey, because you're just copying someone, and then you're not going to go anywhere because you're literally just copying their journey. You know what I mean? That's so
Yeah.
right, man.
For
That's
sure.
so right. I'm I honestly, Ed,
Yeah.
you can come back anytime, brother, and
Anytime
talk
you guys want to
about
talk about something of
anytime,
relationships,
brother.
the social dynamics, and how the pendulum is switching after World War II, when we went from women in going from the home into the workforce, well, everybody's fighting, and then the pendulum swings. The social development. I mean, I'm tapping into stuff that's absolutely amazing, right? To sit here and look at the social dynamics and going, okay, well, women have to experience um, uh, uh, what is it? Sorry. Women have to experience toxic masculinity in order to understand what regular masculinity is. And men went from a masculine and now are starting to embrace and
Feminine. Yeah.
the nurturing, empathy, compassion, all this stuff. Uh, when I say divine feminine and divine masculine energy, it has got nothing to do with gender. You have masculine and you have feminine, but energy is divine masculine and divine feminine. And when you have balance, this is balance because you have access to both sides of the coin. Your
Mm-hmm.
divine masculine, divine,
You can work with each
they
other.
work
Yeah.
intent. They
Yeah.
work beautifully together.
Yes.
They work beautifully, and the degree of peace, serenity. Like, trust me. I mean, I know that going to a place and losing um, uh, oneself in anger and rage, because that's all I had inside. I kept it inside my whole life. and that was a really toxic thing to deal with, because inside I was in a rage all, like, half the time something would trigger me, and I'm like, I just want to destroy something. I mean, it changes everything. I have not had a trigger at that kind of degree of emotion for, I can't even, I don't know how long. And to be able to sit there and navigate day to day to day, month after month, year after year now, of not having, well, not quite a year, but about a year and a half, I guess. It's absolutely amazing. It's like a dream. It's a completely different reality when you can sit there and not have the grief, and not have the shame, and not have the guilt and all that stuff anymore, because that's the most debilitating stuff. The shame associated with all these things, and you navigate this
Mhm.
stuff. It is a game changer when it comes to your life, your existence, your reality. It is completely. And then you're passing that healing down to your children. I mean, everybody should be friggin' working on healing. It should be a priority in life now,
Yeah.
because we have
Well,
to do this.
we push that. We say it all the time. Everybody should see a counselor. You know what I mean? Everybody at the end of the day is fucked up. We're all
Yeah.
fucked up. It's just we're all just trying to get through life, navigating life, having these fucked up feelings, fucked up trauma, everything. Everybody has at least one fucked up thing in their life. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just about navigating through it, man. And we all should talk to someone. We all should, we all need to heal, and
Yes.
as men, definitely. And I'll
Yeah.
say
Well,
this
yeah.
again, we were taught to just push it down. I mean, we're trying to
Exactly.
bury it. Oh,
And,
you're
and, and,
depressed, give it
and
up, suck it up.
how
You know
many
what I
times
mean?
have you had a conversation with another guy on something like raw emotion? It's really hard to do because we
Yeah,
don't know how to navigate
very.
it. But you
Well,
can't
that's
do
why
that
we
with
made
women
Raw
because
Minds, man.
because you it's used as a tool against you, and that's a sad truth, but it's true.
It's
It's
weaponized. Yeah.
weaponized, and
Yeah,
it's
man.
sad that you cannot be yourself. You cannot be your true self in this day and
Yeah,
age in 2024. I mean, it's not
yeah.
like the 1800s where I mean, it's 2024. I mean, we're at this point now where
Yeah.
technology is catching up to us to the point where it's outthinking us. I mean,
Hmm.
we
Dude,
gotta
I
navigate things a little
saw.
differently here now. What's that?
I know this is a little bit off topic, but I saw a fucking video the other day where they were talking about AI and how AI had learned how to fucking create a camera from a Wi-Fi router
Yeah, I
without an
saw that.
actual camera. It
Yeah, I
would
saw
send
that.
radio signals throughout the house, and it could tell you where human beings were in the house
Yeah.
because the radio signals would bounce off the humans. So it
Sonar.
like visually
Is
mapped
that
out
like
with the radio
a
signals where
bat
people
sonar in a
are.
cave kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much. Yeah,
that's what
Oh,
they're doing with the Wi-Fi
oh
routers.
my
yeah.
goodness!
I
But
think fucking technology's already caught up,
at the
man.
end of the day, though, everybody says it's AI, AI, AI. Let's face it, this shit
It's
is
not AI.
not AI.
No,
It's not AI.
they blame
AI
it
actually thinks for
because
itself.
it's a
You know what I
scapegoat.
mean?
It's a scapegoat.
Yeah. What all it is it's Google on steroids, like really fucking good steroids. You know what I mean? That's what it does.
Yeah.
It maps everything out. Like AI actually thinks for itself. It's like how we are. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And that's real
AI is not gonna
AI.
do that. That's a program that's doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's all programs. It's all
Yeah.
programs.
Yeah.
Just
I
I
know.
wouldn't
That's
mind
what
the
I
everything.
link
thought.
to that when Anthony or Eric, if you want to toss me a link later on after the show, what's
For that
convenient,
video,
tomorrow or
I'll
something.
see
It
if I
doesn't
can
matter
find
when,
it.
but I'd like to see that video. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, man.
definitely.
We'll toss that over to you.
Appreciate that.
Oh man, fuck, dude. I mean, Ed, you just blow me away. Even just talking to you,
Yeah.
like on the phone outside of the podcast, man. You just blow me away, man.
I've got.
Ed,
It's the tip of the
I
iceberg right now. It's the tip of the iceberg. There's stuff I could say right now that would just make your go, "What the fuck? Where did you pick up this idea? Where'd you pick up that? Where'd you pick up this?" But
Anthony, ask them the question, the one that you ask all the guests at the end. Ask them.
No, I will. I will. I plan on
Okay.
it. But
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what he
like,
says.
have
That's why.
you talked to your doctor about working alongside
we
him
can't.
on this
Yeah,
research?
we talked about this. I talked about working with him, but we have to be. He can't be my doctor for like at least a year, or maybe it's 2 years. I'm not sure, but there are certain regulations that protect him as a professional and protect me as a patient. It's the patient doctor confidentiality and guidelines. So doctors can't take advantage of their patients.
Oh, so he
Mm,
can't just like walk you around like a trophy
Nope,
dog kind of
you
thing.
can't. Not yet. Not yet, but
Not
I'm
yet.
gonna drag him around when this stuff goes, because it's I got a deep core feeling that this is something really significant. And if anybody's watching and they're working on this and they want somebody to work with, somebody that's gone through these things and have these experiences, and want to work in this healing environment, reach out to me. Reach out to Raw Minds, and connect with these guys. Connect with me. Whatever you want to do, let's work together, because this is needed. This is desperately needed. So please, reach out.
Shoot your socials, man.
Yeah.
Shoot your socials so they can get a hold of you.
You can find me on. I have an Instagram attached to my TikTok account, and I think you guys have a. Is it linked in the?
Yeah, and we'll
Okay.
link
We
it in this
will.
one as well.
Yeah, it's in there. It's Ragged65 at TikTok, so it's at Ragged65, so Ragged 65. My name is Edward, and I'm available. You can DM me, and we'll talk. If anybody DMs me, I usually have a conversation with them, and I hate to say this, but like 95% of the time, I got to block them because they're just scams and shit. But I'll talk to anybody that needs to talk. If you're healing and you're having a difficult time and you want somebody to talk to, you talk. I'll listen. And I'll if you just want somebody to talk to, I'll talk with you. If you want some advice, or if you want some guidance in the healing journey, hey, these guys, they have resources, and I'm sure it's just going to get bigger, because this is a great opportunity for people to communicate and talk, to share their story. And the more people that share their stories, the more we start to accept the fact that we need this, right? Because people realize, we start making connections. We start saying, oh, yes, hey, if you're seeing this person or that person in this conversation, and it's going to trigger you. You're going to get triggered. When you're listening to me right now, energy is everything. So when you're listening to me, you're getting triggered. Whether it's a healing trigger or whether it's a trauma trigger, people are going to like me or they're not going to like me. It doesn't matter. You're being triggered. Just listening to the sound of my voice and my energy in this process, you're being energy is everything, and it's all part of the healing journey. And when we realize that, we can navigate things so much easier. We really can.
Yeah. I'm fucking baffled is what I am. Fuck, I was gonna say something else. I had another question for you.
Hold on one more sec. Ed, can you give me your TikTok one more time, brother, so I can put
Sure,
it in
it's
here?
Ragged65, so Ragged 65.
Perfect.
That's what I was gonna ask you. If you plan on posting that video that you were talking about that you took last night, send the link to Eric as well, because that's a perfect way to like show someone an example of you utilizing the tools that you shared with us.
I explain the entire thing. It's about 35 minutes long, so I'll put it up. I'll upload it onto my YouTube. I think it's I believe it's Edward Awaken. Just give me a second here, if you bear with me. I'll let you know what my YouTube is.
Yeah,
man. Wow, man. We got to talk offline, man, because you're going to teach me some shit here. Definitely.
Eric wants to learn.
I do, man. I'm a sponge, man. I'm always learning,
Yeah. Edward Awaken, one word. Edward Awaken. And that's my it's got my same profile picture on TikTok as it is on Facebook and everything else. But I don't usually use Facebook because we won't go there. It's a trigger.
So before the end of the show here, Edward, I'm trying to start this thing where I ask the same question to every guest at the end of the episode. Since this is your part 2, I didn't ask you last week. What's your message to the world in one sentence?
We're still
It
here,
doesn't
everybody.
matter where you are on your healing journey. Don't stay stagnant. Move forward. Because after you're done that feeling, there's a better feeling behind it.
Beautiful.
Fuck yeah, man.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, man.
Well, I want to thank you for coming back on, Edward, and anytime, man.
Yeah, hey, Yeah,
Anytime.
if I come across something that's really cool, and in my healing journey, and I'm going to stay in touch with you guys constantly, because I've got a really good connection with the both of you, and I want to maintain that.
Yeah.
And if you want if you have questions about something that you want to talk about in the healing journey, just bring it up. And if we want to just have a conversation, if we want to do a live, or you want to do another podcast, please, I'm all up for it. Everything that I do is all about healing and participating in the community and healing people. I mean, that's exactly who I am now. It's always who I've been, but now I embrace that.
You know what I'd love to do, honestly? Like, I think this would be a sick idea, just to fucking jump on here on a Saturday, hit record, and just see what happens. Not make
I'm
it like a formal episode. Just come on here and just like no expectation. Just hit record. That way we have the information because I feel like you have
Oh,
so
I can go
much.
on for hours,
Only way we're
Anthony.
gonna
I can go
be
on
able
for
to take all of
hours
it.
because
Yeah, man.
I have a 30-minute window to have a conversation with my doctor, and I talk so fast that he has to record it. And it's
Yeah,
just the icing on the cake. It's just the highlights of my healing. I mean,
yeah.
because there's no extra room, and he puts me at the beginning of the day, so he knows it's going to go to 45 minutes, and he's already
Hmm.
making things
Yeah.
late for him to begin with. So,
I think that's
That's
what
the
we're. I
goal,
think we
bro.
should do it. Let's do it.
anytime you
Yeah,
guys want to get together, because my as it sits right now, I'm available, right? So, yeah,
I
beautiful. Well, we got holidays coming
yeah,
up, so
I just want to put this out here too. Everybody that's listening to all our platforms, you guys are going to be listening to Friday and on after we record this. We are on TikTok live, and someone famous just joined our live. What's up, Joey? We just want to show some love. We miss you. We appreciate
Joey,
you. And Raw Minds is always a part of you, brother. So just saying that, man. I just wanted to show some love. So
cool.
Iron Menace.
So yeah, if you guys could drop us a follow, it would mean a lot. If you could drop us a follow on TikTok, hit us up on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube too. It would mean a lot to us. And if you want to be in the hot seat where Edward is, hit us up at rawmindspodcast at gmail.com. And if you or someone you know is struggling, also hit us up at the same email. We're here to help. Like Edward says, we have resources, man. We've got people, beautiful human beings like Edward, um, previous guests like Tom, Laverne, Wes. Like, I don't want to leave anybody out, but we've got a ton of people in our back pocket, and we'll do what we can on our end to find you the resources that you need. We don't care where you are in the
Or
world.
who, doesn't
We're
matter.
here for
Doesn't
you,
matter gender,
and
nothing.
Make it
we
happen.
Yep.
yeah, and we appreciate you guys listening and tuning in every week. And yeah, we're stacking up some guests. We've got some pretty wicked guests coming up as well, and we're getting close to the Christmas holidays. I think we should do like a Christmas episode, maybe just you and I,
Definitely.
Eric.
Definitely,
I think
man.
that'll be a good one. But
Definitely.
yeah, we've got some
Hey,
some great guests coming up. So stay tuned,
don't
guys. We love you.
don't
Thanks.
wait.
Thanks for listening.
Hold on. Don't forget the exciting news with the two more that we just hit.
Oh yeah, we hit two more countries, so we're in 15 now.
No.
Where are we? China
And
and
Turkey, man. China and
Turkey. I wasn't
Turkey.
sure if Turkey was a country or not. I'm not good at geography, so
Cool.
But yeah,
yeah.
we just hit those ones. So if you're listening in China and Turkey, we appreciate you guys. So thank you. We do. So 15 countries now.
Wow.
So
That's
Yeah,
pretty
leave
exciting.
some fucking feedback too. Tell us what you think. We love
yeah,
hearing from you
Yeah, we
guys.
can't evolve without
Yeah, we
feedback.
appreciate this.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
all of
right.
us. Every one of us.
yeah. We want to know
Absolutely.
everything. Just even if it's to say hi or good job, or if you guys think that we got to change something, just give us a little bit of feedback. We want to know, right? We want to make this podcast the best podcast out there. So Joe Rogan, watch out, buddy. We're coming for you.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you, Ed. We'll have you on. I think definitely we're gonna do one of these Saturday things, man.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm
So
up
if
for
you
that, for
don't
sure.
know, we're live every Monday. It's usually 6 p.m. We had a little bit of technical difficulties this time, but we're here. We fucking made it happen, and we're gonna make it happen every other week too. So hit us up.
Love
Anyways,
you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for your input, and take care. Remember, keep your water up. You got this.